Good evening, men. Welcome to the next section of the Men's Cross-Training Practices presented by the community of Transcendent Men. In previous Men's Cross-Training Practices, we've shared how important stories are. The Bible is filled with stories and how God is in them. Our lives are also filled with stories and God is in them. An example of this can be found in Father Larry Huber's relationship with his deceased father. 10 years ago, Father Larry's father died after a lifelong battle with juvenile diabetes. He was 69. Father Larry was very appreciative of his father, who taught him many things, most importantly about Jesus. About a year or so after his death, Father wished he had inquired more about his dad's stories when he was younger. Stories such as how he met his mother, how he sold cars in the 1960s as a young man in his 20s, and who his friends were in high school. Father Larry regretted not sitting down with his father and hearing the stories of his early life. Father Larry came to realize that he had lost the opportunity to get to know his father better and will never get it back. Father decided to tell other men about the mistake he had made with his father. One of them was Mark Benson. Father Huber encouraged Mark to find out as much about his father as he could while he still had the opportunity. Consequently, Mark decided to take the time to drive 2 hours to visit his father and asked him to share his early stories as a man. As they talked, Mark took detailed notes. He knew his father owned a grain elevator company, but didn't know much about the early days of the business. He learned many other things he never knew. He learned how his father converted to Catholicism and why he decided to convert. Mark and his father were passionate sports fans. One particular Sunday, Mark drove up to visit his father and watch the Super Bowl. They became involved in such personal and intimate conversations about Jesus in their lives that they didn't even turn on the TV to watch the game. These men's cross-training practices are designed to help you carry on meaningful conversations about Jesus with any human being. One beautiful way to describe the importance of this is in the story of Saint Benedict and his sister, Saint Scholastica. Saint Scholastica writes that her brother, Saint Benedict, came to visit her in the convent. At one point during the conversation, Saint Benedict told his sister that he had to return to the monastery, to which Saint Scholastica begged her brother to stay. She wanted to continue her Jesus conversation with him, but he insisted on returning. In response, Saint Scholastica prayed to God to keep her brother from returning to the monastery. God granted her prayer through a severe storm, forcing her brother to remain with her all night. Saint Scholastica then writes that she and her brother discussed spiritual life all through the storms. As morning approached, Saint Scholastica begged her brother to stay longer, but the weather broke and Saint Benedict returned to the monastery. These men's cross-training practices will help you, like Saints Benedict and Scholastica, to have meaningful discussions with your wife, family members, new parishioners, and friends, maybe even a stranger you meet at the gas station. These practices will give you the tools to have meaningful conversations about Jesus with anyone in your life.